you will watch on this podcast.
Maybe I can try to turn that death sentence into a life sentence. Unfortunately, that's what I've been trying to do for the last 12 years now.
That's really, really powerful. Really powerful. Woo.
Just click, you get your food. You just click, you get your groceries.
So how do you want to raise your children when everything that is around you is structured so that you have sugar all over, processed food all over?
So it's a personal choice that you've got to decide. I mean, you can have all the tools available to you in the world, but if you decide, you know what, I just want to lay on the couch and eat potato chips and watch television, well, you know what? You're not going to be a healthy individual.
Welcome back to this Wellness Billion podcast, my friends. Again, today we are back with an amazing guest to tackle amazing topics as usual. Terry, welcome to this Wellness Billion podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to talking with both of you today.
We feel thrilled. Hi, Terry. We're glad also to talk to you. You have such a tremendous career, and I want to share with our audience how outstanding your voyage was during this whole time, and what you got out of it, and what you can share with our audience today and with us, by the way. So, guys, Terry Tucker is a true testament to resilience and reinvention, I would say. So from being in NCCA division basketball player, he was at the Citadel of and he got to a multifaceted career spanning marketing, law enforcement, entrepreneurship. So Terry's journey is one of the that expresses adaptability, determination, and his life, and he's going to explain it to us, took a profound turn when he was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive cancer. It was a kind of melanoma, but he will explain it much better than I will do. It happened, I think, in 2012, right, Terry?
Yes.
And despite getting treatments and immense physical challenges, Terry transformed his adversity into a mission to inspire others. So he's the author of a book called The Sustainable Excellence, 10 Principles of Leading Our Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. That is going to be very interesting. It's a kind of guide of living with purpose and resilience. So I think through this work, Terry emphasizes the importance of a mindset of self-care, of cultivating inner strength, and the principle that he defends in his book is how to overcome life challenges. So Terry, tell us about what happened exactly and how you overcame it.
Sure. So in 2012, as you mentioned, I was a girls' high school basketball coach when we lived in Texas, and I had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot, right below my third toe, and initially didn't think much of it. But after a few weeks of it not healing, I went to see a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine, and he took an x-ray and he said, Terry, I think you have a little cyst in there and I can cut it out. And he did. And fortunately or unfortunately, he sent it off to pathology to have it looked at. And then 2 weeks later, I get that call that certainly changed my life. And as I mentioned, he was a friend of mine. And so the more difficulty he was having explaining to me what was going on, the more frightened I was becoming, until finally he just laid it out for me. He said, Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years, and I have never seen the form of cancer that you have. You have an incredibly rare form of melanoma. And most people think of melanoma as too much exposure to the sun affects the melanin, the pigment in our skin. Mine has nothing to do with sun exposure. It's a rare form that appears on the bottom of the feet or the palms of the hands. And so I had the tumor excised on my foot, all the lymph nodes in my groin removed. And then I was told basically that I would be dead in 2 years, that they had nothing to offer me other than surgery. And I thought, well, you gave me a death sentence. Maybe I can try to turn that death sentence into a life sentence. Unfortunately, that's what I've been trying to do for the last 12 years now.
That's really, really powerful. Really powerful. Woo. So, okay, Terry. So you're the first to start. You open the show by reading this first article about the wellness as we see it today.
Perfect. So the first article, Health and Wellness. Cancer is a preventable disease that requires major lifestyle changes. So the 3 points are only 5 to 10% of all cancer cases can be attributed to genetic defects, whereas the remaining 90 to 95% have their roots in the environment and lifestyle. The second point, almost 25 to 30% of cancer related deaths are due to tobacco. As many as 30 to 35% are linked to diet, and about 15 to 20% are due to infections. And the remaining percentage are due to other factors such as radiation, stress, physical activity, and environmental pollutants. And then the final point, by 2020, the world population is expected to increase to 7.5 billion. Of this number, approximately 15 million new cancer cases will be diagnosed, and 12 million cancer patients will unfortunately die from the disease.
Yeah, those statistics are striking, really striking, and I mean, they're frightening also. So my questions to you, Terry, and to all of us is that I mean, chronic inflammation is a critical link between carcinogens and cancer prevention agents. So, what practical steps could individuals take to reduce inflammations in their daily lives, and how can we make this knowledge make accessible to the general public, as everyone should be aware of the preventive way to not to get what you got?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I've had all 88 genes tested that doctors know of or suspect every form of cancer that we know of. And I have absolutely no mutations in any of my genes that would predispose me to any type of cancer, which certainly begs the question, why did I get this incredibly rare form of cancer? Nobody's been able to answer that question. But one of the diagnostic tools that my doctor used to use to determine the progress of my disease was called a PET scan. And PET is an acronym. Don't ask me what it is because I can't even pronounce it. But it basically involves injecting you with radioactive sugar, with the idea being that cancer cells have a higher metabolism. They will pick up that radioactive sugar at a higher rate, and that's what glows on a scan. Well, nobody ever told me this, but in terms of inflammation and things like that, I figured out, well, maybe I shouldn't be eating all this sugar. Maybe I shouldn't be eating all this processed food and being more natural, more keto type of diet. And that's what I've been trying to do probably for the last 8 years now when I learned about that. But it was not something my doctor or anybody in my medical team ever told me that I should do.
You raise a critical question: is the relation between sugar and the starving cancer for sugar. I agree totally with you, Terry, because sugar is really, really, really the best food. As far as all the literature I read and studies I read, I mean, as sugar is the best literature, the best food for cancer. I mean, as we know it, with all the processed food around us, we should take very good care, and nothing is done to prevent us to avoid as much sugar as you can, or to replace sugar by some replacement, or not to let us or our kids get used to sugar that much. Because as I was telling you, Yassine, the other day, when you enter a supermarket, I mean, you're in a candy store at the end. You feel that you're in a supermarket, you have bread over this, bread over that, but the level of sugar that is contained in those biscuits and bread and different products that you have in front of you, even tomato sauce contains a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Yassine?
I mean, I totally agree with this point of view. Is that like sugar is the enemy of health, anyways. Like we know it, and everyone knows it. But the problem is that wherever we go or whatever ad we see contains sugar, as far as food is concerned, obviously. And you mentioned something that's right. When you go actually to the supermarket, the biggest aisle is the sugar aisle. Is where you go check some chips, some snacks, some biscuits, everything. This aisle is enormous, and the temptation is big. When you go and you pass by the aisle, for example, myself, I never pass by the aisle because I know that if I pass by there, I'm going to pick up something and put it in my cart. And I know that whenever I'm going to go home, I'm going to eat the whole pack. I'm not going to leave anything. I'm going to eat the whole pack because sugar is the worst drug. It's worse than cocaine. So having sugar at home is the worst you can do. But the problem is that we have sugar everywhere. You mentioned the tomato sauce. I cook a lot with tomato sauce. But when you look at the ingredients of the tomato sauce, the packed one, not the homemade one, there's a lot of sugar. But the problem is that sugar is also used as to help conserve the product. So it's used for everything. And putting this in our body, I mean, has a lot of consequences like cancer, for example.
It does, and I think we probably should make a distinction between processed sugar and natural sugars. We get natural sugars through fruits and things like that. That those are natural type sugars. Our bodies can use those and process those much better than the processed type of sugar. But I think we've gotten from a societal point of view to the point where we want things and we want them now. It's, hurry up, get this. I want it quick. I want it now because I got to move on to something else. And we don't spend as much time preparing meals at home, fruits and vegetables, lean meats, grass-fed things that are good for us. And you're right. It's hard for me. And I'm not 100% keto. Will I eat a pizza from time to time? Will I, eat a cookie from time to time? Yes, I will. But I really I don't drink, soda pop, Coca-Cola or Pepsi or anything like that. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do desserts and things like that. And that's a personal choice. I mean, am I tempted? Absolutely, I'm tempted.
Yeah,
But it's
obviously.
a discipline to say that, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And every now and then I'll let myself have something. But like everything else in the world, everything in moderation.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to the club because I'm exactly like you and Terry. And I realized after 20 years of being very, as I thought, because I had a brain tumor, and after 20 years, I realized I was eating in a clean way, but also eating pasta and rice and some pizza sometimes, and thought that everything was okay until I found out that I had diabetes type 2 and hypertension. And it all came from sugar. And this is why my quest was to discover a non-invasive device to be able to handle this sugar and to know about the curves and the mitigate with the insulin resistance thing and so on. But you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end, you should not avoid it altogether, but you should use it parsimoniously. Consider it as an enemy that you decide to put on your side or not, depending on yourself. To get more advanced in the subject, we saw that research shows that cancer rates increased when individuals migrate from low risk to high risk countries, as we saw in the articles, and it's mainly due to lifestyle and environment changes. So how can we empower those migrant communities that come to the US or come to other countries to empower, to maintain healthier habits? How can we do that for our kids? I mean, this morning I was watching a 1 week video from New York Times, and they were interviewing a very potent lady that announced 75% of the US population got obesity. And she said, don't say they're obese. They said obesity is a sickness, so they got obesity. And she announced 75%. I mean, you can go to YouTube, you watch it on the New York Times program. It struck me, 75%. So how do you want to raise your children when everything that is around you is structured so that you have sugar all over, processed food all over? How do you see this evolving?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, there was a position in the federal government called the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. Even in schools today, we're cutting back on physical fitness, for the sake of math, science, English, and things like that. And that's great. It's great that we're using our minds, but it's the mind-body connection. We've got to exercise more. Kids spend all this time in front of screens and are not out there. They're not exercising. I mean, I grew up, eating processed cereals and coffee cakes and all that growing up, but I was playing basketball for 4 or 5 hours a day and burning all that sugar off and things like that. We're not as physical as we used to be. And I think that carries over into the military here in the United States. The only branch of the military that's been able to meet their quota every year is the United States Marine Corps. Everybody else, kids can't go into the armed services because they're physically not able to do it. They can't run, they can't do push-ups, and that's all because they sit on their butts and they get behind these screens and they do that every day. You've got to get out and you've got to burn that. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom's like, go play. When the street lights come on, come home. We were gone all day, riding our bikes, doing all that kind of stuff. Kids don't do that stuff anymore.
That's so true. I mean, I'm from the generation. I mean, I think one of the last generations that grew up playing outside, and then came the TikTok, let's say TikTok generation, where they only spend time on their screen, and actually going outside, it's kind of a punishment because they're so addicted of the screen. They're so addicted of scrolling, and it's a known and studied addiction actually. And for me, that's horrible because yes, we can see, like Karim said, we can see that there's a high obesity percentage in the US, for example, because maybe it's the most studied case. And when you see videos from the 90s, the 80s, you see much more people, thin people than today. Why? Because today everything is accessible with the click of a thumb. They just click, you get your food. You just click, you get your groceries. You just click, you get your shopping or whatsoever. So everything is made. Technology destroyed childhood, for instance, and I strongly believe that physical activity shouldn't even be something that they could consider. It should be mandatory every single day to be able to move and to burn and to just get active. Because if you're not active, personally, when I don't work out in the morning, I can't spend a good day. If I don't move, I'm not in the same mindset. I've been stuck for a week now without working out, and I feel lazy. I feel not as energized as before. So it became kind of a drug, and it's a healthy drug, and I strongly believe that everyone should have a sort form of exercise every day to be able to maintain this healthy body that they gave us.
As far as the government is concerned, they have a responsibility. I mean, if you consider the way you could prevent what's going on, prevention is key at the end for all sickness. But we could develop immersive cancer prevention lifestyle retreats where participants experience a week evidence-based practices that would include anti-inflammatory cooking classes, for instance, personalized fitness programs, stress reduction techniques, and educational sessions on carcinogens exposure that we talked about. And those retreats can be supported by a healthcare professional and the financed by the government, and it should offer actionable takeaways for lasting change, and should be also related to our kids. When they're at school, they should have also those classes that teach them how to handle food in general and sugar in particular, letting them know how just to write labels on the back of the product they have in the supermarket. Just that thing would change a hell lot, and explaining to them the relation when they find what is the protein intake like, what is the carb intake like, which sugar is this carb it got, how many calories it gets, is it green or is it reddish, this type of thing. Also, we can also use tech, which is my field, with AI-powered personalized cancer prevention plans that we can bring to people, leveraging advances in AI. Individuals could access to app or platforms that could analyze their lifestyle habits and environmental exposure and provide real-time personalized cancer prevention plan if it's cancer, or other type of plan not to get diabetes or hypertension and so on and so forth. What do you think about that, Terry?
I think that any tool we can bring to bear, but I think at the end of the day, it comes down: are people willing to do that? Are people willing? I mean, people, and I don't. I'm going to sound really bad here. People are weak. People don't want. It's like, no, I don't want to cook. I want to go to McDonald's and get a a quarter pounder or, Burger King, or because it's quick and it's easy and it tastes good, but it makes you fat and it makes you unhealthy. Oh, that I don't care. I don't care about that. I'll deal with that later in life. People are weak, and people need to start to step up and say, you know what? If I ate better, like Yassine is saying, if I got up in the morning and I exercised just for 20 minutes every morning, I would feel so much better, because I know I do. I mean, I feel terrible. I'm treated every 3 weeks at the hospital for my cancer, but I know when I exercise, I feel better. When I eat right, I feel better. And when I don't eat right, I don't feel good. So it's a personal choice that you've got to decide. I mean, you can have all the tools available to you in the world, but if you decide, you know what, I just want to lay on the couch and eat potato chips and watch television, well, you know what, you're not going to be a healthy individual.
Totally, I totally agree with you. It's the exact like, it's what people. I mean, people are aware. I'm pretty sure people are aware of that. The only problem is that they don't take action to become better. Why? Because it's staying in their comfort zone. And the hardest thing in life is to go out of your comfort zone. But what they don't know is that going out of their comfort zone means they're going to find something better than what they have today.
Yes, but at the end, Yassine, you could also point the finger to the education system, because the education system, as it is in the US or as it is in several different countries, including ours, is not helping out your young kids to get educated as adopting rules, or getting to know what's going on and adopting habits to be able to thrive with those habits all their lives. Also, on the urban side, the cities, they can adopt urban wellness zones designed to combat environmental pollutants, which are also a cause of cancer. They should, like Turker said, encourage physical activity. They could provide community education about cancer prevention as a whole. And those zones could include pollutant-free walking trails, for instance, outdoor fitness spaces that young can get to very early on, and they can provide them with accessible nutrition workshops to foster a healthier environment to those urban population, because it's mainly urban population, because on the countryside, which is a very low percentage in the US, in Morocco it's more than 60%, but in the US I don't know, it's less than 2%, I believe, or 3%, right?
Yeah, it is. And I agree with you, but I really think it starts in the home. I mean, if you're providing all these things to kids in school, but they're going home and mom and dad are,
Yeah, yeah.
eating fried foods and, sugar and drinking soda and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
it's not reinforced in the home. So I think, like so many other things, it needs to start in the home. And then
Yeah.
I agree with you, Karim, to be then educated in the classroom. Here's how you can expand that. Here's knowledge that you have. You have to make the decision. Yeah, maybe it takes you 15 minutes to cook a meal or something like that. Well, I don't want to do that. I'm lazy. I'm not motivated. Whatever it ends up being. You got to start this in the home and get people on that. And I do. I mean, I go to the hospital and I look around. I sit in the waiting rooms and I look at the number of people that just physically look sick. They're obese. Their skin color is not good. Their hair is not good. Just things that you can look at. It's like, you're not taking care of yourself. And I know you have a disease on top of that. So, I mean, it's really got to, in my opinion, start in the home.
I totally agree.
Yeah, yeah, but we also have to take into consideration. I mean, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you a story. Yassine, you were here one day. One of my daughters, Ines, came over home, and we were sitting at the table eating, and she said to her mom, she said, "Mommy, where does this come from? How was it grown? Do you have any traceability?" When she was over 20 years old. But she started asking questions I would not believe my mind it could be on her mind.
Yeah.
And she was very aware of sustainability, on how it was produced and why it was produced. All this she learned at school and university. And she came back with such a knowledge about this traceability thing and what is good, what is not good. we have to say that in our family, we're very, very wellness oriented. I mean, Yassine is one of the most important example, and my two other daughters, one in nutrition and one is in Pilates and meditation. But they are very sensitive since a very young age, and they could educate us on it, not the opposite.
It's because we have quick and easy access to the information, and it's mainly thanks to the internet and the social media today. Because thanks to social media, we're learning every single day, we want it or not. Even if we scroll throughout, let's say, trashy content or just funny content or whatever, we're gonna stop at some point where we're gonna have valuable information we will learn from it, and then we're gonna tell our friends, we're gonna tell our families, we're gonna tell everyone around us, and that information is gonna stick in our mind, and that's again thanks to social media. So we can blame social media for many things, but we can also say thank you to social media for many other things. But I'm jumping to the second article actually that is that is
With no transition.
Good segue.
Good, right? So I'm actually to be able to tackle this.
You know
topic.
why, Terry? Because the second article is about social media, by the way. He loves social media, that guy with his 2.7 million followers. He loves social media.
It's my life. I love it. I love how it works. And I mean, yeah, we can criticize it as much as we want, but there's some good stuff. We'll get to it right now with this second article. So let me read it to you guys. Basically, Australia plans 30 million fine for social media firms defying under 16 ban. 16. It says social media companies could be fined more than $30 million if they fail to keep children off their platforms under new laws tabled before Australia's Parliament on Thursday. The legislation places the onus on social media platform, not parents or children, to ensure protection are in place, Ministry of Communication Mitchell Rowland said. Spain passed a law in June banning social media access to under 16s, and in the US state of Florida, children under 14 will be banned from opening social media accounts under a new law due to come into force in January. Personally, this is terrible. Personally, this is terrible. We can have, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have different points of views into this, and I'm gonna let you guys, because you're from a different generation, start me on this subject.
Yassine, do you think this approach effectively protects children, or does it risk pushing them toward unregulated, potentially more dangerous online spaces?
I'm gonna respond to your question by asking you another question. When something is forbidden, are you more tempted to do it or not?
When you're a kid, I believe psychologically, as I know you, when you were a kid and I see you and I will see myself when I was a kid, I would be more tempted to go toward doing that thing of finding another, I would say, route to get to it. But let's have the opinion of Terry.
I think it's very difficult to legislate morality. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Back in the 1920s in the United States, we outlawed alcohol. It's like, nope, can't have alcohol in the United States. We had a constitutional amendment that said we can't have alcohol. And what happened? All the bootleggers went up to Canada, got the booze, and brought it back into the United States. And the speakeasy, these kind of undercover bars where everybody knew you could get a drink, proliferated in the United States. So it's right. You tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it. I mean, when I was the police officer, we obviously had a gun in the house. And we had a young daughter. And I used to tell my daughter, anytime you want to see my gun, anytime you want to hold it, just come to me. I don't want you sneaking, trying to find it. I mean, it was always locked up when I was there. But I didn't want her to go behind my back because, it's something that I shouldn't be, involved with. No, you want to see it. You want to hold it. Do it while I'm here where I can supervise you. And so I took the mystique away from it. It's like, yeah, you want to look at it anytime you want. Just come talk to me and I'll let you see it. So I think it's really hard. And again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about on the previous point about cancer. If it doesn't start in the home, if mom and dad aren't going to reinforce this carte blanche, you can be on social media anytime you want. If they're not going to limit that, then at some point in time, if the government comes in and says you can't do it, they're going to find ways around it. Kids are smart. They're resilient. They're going to figure out a way to get on social media if the government tells them they can't do it.
I totally agree. I mean, just open when you open an account. For example, myself, when I open an account on Google, just an email account for a certain reason that I'm not going to use or whatever, and they ask me about my date of birth, I'm always putting a fake date of birth. I'm never putting my real date of birth. So who's going to control the ones that are going to put the real date of birth or the fake date of birth if they don't take, for example, a picture of their ID or whatever to be able to control or whatsoever? I don't think it's going to go until there. But coming back to address the real problem of this ban of social media is that today social media teaches a lot to young kids. Yes, they're addicted to their phone. But the thing is that you can learn so much from social media, and I believe much more than what you can learn at school, personally, if you follow the right persons, if you follow the right content as well. And there are so many kids that are raised properly thanks to social media because in their household, it's not good. And they're taking this social media to escape the real life, and they learn much more from social media. And I know a lot of people like this as well. And I personally learned my job directly from social media. I learned it from there. Yes, I wasn't 14 or 16. I was older than that, so I had more conscious. But I believe that social media shouldn't be banned for young people. In the contrary, young people should use social media to be able to cultivate themselves in a good way, not in a bad way, obviously. But today, social media makes a living. Why won't you start at 14 years old to learn this? Because it's the new TV, it's the new entertainment, it's the new way of living. Why would you ban this from kids? Is TV banned under 12 years old? No, I mean, you have certain programs, yeah. You can have parental control. Social media has parental control. So again, it comes back to the house, like Terry said. It's like, if in the house it's controlled, there's no problem. But in the house, it has to be controlled. It has to be controlled by who? By the parents. But not by the state banning because of their age or whatever.
I mean, it's the same thing. I'm sorry. I was going to say it's the same thing in the United States. We have ages where you can purchase alcohol, where you can purchase tobacco and things like that. And I can't tell you how many times as a police officer I would run across kids that were underage. They have cigarettes. They were underage, but they had alcohol. They find a way to get it. And I agree with Yassine. Parents get involved and limit the types or the things or the times that kids can be online, then they're allowed to use the benefits of social media. And I agree. I mean, think about it. Almost everything in the world is available to you in this little phone, in your hand. Everything. You can learn about anything. But if it's not controlled, kids their prefrontal cortex hasn't developed. They don't, the reasoning isn't there about this isn't good for me. Oh no, I want to look at this. It needs to have some bumpers on it so that people don't go off the rails.
Yeah, well, to be really frank with you, it's again, I come back to education because instead of relying solely on age bans, we should create the youth-led digital literacy programs that teach safe and responsible online behavior from a very young age. This program can partner with schools and NGOs, empowering children to navigate the internet responsibly while fostering a culture of accountability among users, parents, and platforms. And on the side of verifying the age, Yassine, I would tell you that today we have technical capability of handling it with AI. I mean, social media companies could adopt the AI-powered biometric verification system that use like facial recognition or voice analysis to determine the age without storing sensitive data. And then these systems could integrate with third-party apps to ensure whispered adoption and user privacy. But I would say it's not enough because you can overpass it. But and what's the most dangerous thing about social media? It's not like a shop to bring cigarettes or alcohol. Social media is like you just said, Terry. It's at your fingertips of your telephone, and you should you can go do whatever with it, even if you are traced, which is not the right solutions. We all agree about that at least. But if at least you should have some brainwashing. And it's very abrupt, but brainwashing is what our professors, the doctors, our friends should have at the most early stage of their age, so that they can raise with this mentality of saying, okay, this is bad, and it's not for me, it hurts, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with you. I mean, but I also think, again, I'm kind of putting my own perspective on it with law enforcement. You know, where I worked, we had a curfew, and kids under a certain age had to be inside by a certain time. Well, I worked nights. I worked 11 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. And when you pick up a 12-year-old kid at 3 o'clock in the morning on a school day, and you have to take them home, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, mom and dad aren't in the picture. They're being raised by their grandmother or their sister. You know, and grandma is 75 years old. She goes to bed at 8 o'clock, and that kid's unsupervised. No wonder he's out at 3 o'clock in the morning on a school night. You know, it really, it's a societal thing. You know, it kind of goes back to it takes a village to raise a child. It really does. I mean, I agree with both of you. It's got to start in the home, but it also has to permeate all the other touch points that kids have in their lives, whether it's their friends, their schools, whatever it ends up being. It's bigger than just one particular thing. And let's face it, if it was an easy problem to solve, we would have solved it already.
I agree.
Yeah, and I don't think any taxation whatsoever in Australia or Spain could solve anything, because they will overcoming. And the more the tax, the higher the tax, the more creative the kids become, or even
Yeah.
sometimes the parents. That's true.
But the you know the point of view that we have to see as well here is that they're taxing companies that allow kids over 14 years old or 16 years old. But how are the companies going to know that there's like someone 14 or 16 years old if they fake their birth date in the while registering in the platform? I mean, we're signing
You
up
have
in the
means,
platform.
Yassine. You have a lot of means. As a tech company, you can know very well what age is the person that is scrolling on the web or scrolling on the app. Why is that? Because imagine you're on Facebook. I mean, you were on Facebook for several years, right?
Yeah.
Before this law came to fruition. So they know you, they know your age, they know what you did, they know you better than yourself. And knowing that, if you are under 14 or under 16, they will know you under 14 or under 16 because of your past interaction with the app. And this is why the governments point the finger to them and tax them for that. Because is it for you to quit your Instagram account?
Is it what?
Is it easy for you today to quit your Instagram account or your Facebook account?
I mean, I'm not an example.
No, okay. Let's assume I'm telling you about Terry. Is it easy to quit your Facebook accounts, for instance?
I mean, it's not. I mean, I have a business Facebook account and a personal one. And I'll be honest with you, when I don't post on my personal one, I get all kinds of phone calls from, are you okay? Is everything good? I haven't seen you on Facebook before. I do, you know, and people are like, I'm worried about you. I haven't seen you on here before. Well, I don't really post personal stuff anymore. I just use my business account. So I don't think it's that easy when people, you know, people, they count on you. They count on seeing you, on what you're doing in your life and things like that. I'm not that exciting, so I don't put a lot of stuff out there. But at the same time,
Yeah.
people,
But you see what you say, what you just said is very powerful, Terry, because people count on you.
yeah,
And when you're not here, they're worried,
yeah,
which means that all your life they were interacting with you and you with them. And well, as far as the young are concerned, I mean, it's the same. They're interacting with their friends. They know what they do. They know where they go, etc. And it's very difficult to erase that just because those companies are going to get taxed. So it's not coming from the user side; it's coming from the tech company side, and they know how old you are certainly, and they can shut off your account, which will be the worst punishment you can ever have, even more, it'll be heavier on you than the tax they will pay as a multi-billion-dollar company.
But let me ask you this question on that. So, I mean, there are obviously predators that are on social media that go after, certain people, young kids, things like that. We had a police officer when I was in law enforcement, and she looked very young, and she made a whole fake account and all that kind of stuff to try to lure some of these predators to do things that were illegal. What's to prevent? I mean, Karim, I totally agree with you. They know who you are. Well, what's to prevent me from starting another account with a fake ID or something like that that says,
Yeah.
I'm Bob Smith and I'm 25 years old? How are they going to know that that's any different from the 14-year-old individual that has a social media account? I don't, and I don't know enough about social media and that to answer that question.
Yeah, but you see, in that regard, their algorithms could detect the creation of account posterior to the law,
Okay.
and they would know that after that law, a lot of accounts were opened, and they can scrutinize those accounts to see what's right but what's wrong, or even to avoid any taxation. The social networks could just put you into surveillance so that they know where you're heading with this new account.
Okay.
That's an opinion, by the way.
No, I understand, and you know more about this than I do. I just look at kids like we were talking before. Kids are resilient. Kids are going to figure out a way around the system. And
Yeah.
at what point will the social media companies be like, at what point is enough? I've done enough to try to stop this young person from getting on. Where's the culpability lie? I did this, this, and this. Well, no, you got to do this, this, and this as well. Well, why do I have to do that? Isn't this enough? I mean, where's that line that says I did enough and I'm sorry this kid still got on?
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the third article, which I'm going to read for you guys. Okay, topic number 3. New government tech deals boost the business of cancer detection. Here we are. Already contributing to 108 billion pounds to the UK economy, the life sciences industry drove 800 million pounds in foreign direct investment into the UK in 2023 and supports around 300,000 jobs up to down the country. A 110 million fund will create 5 new hubs across the country, from Glasgow to Bristol, to help develop the new health technologies. And 6.5 million pounds is being invested by the government in a new data infrastructure, which will pull together digital pathology data from across the NHS to make it easier for researchers to access. So this is tremendous amounts of money poured by governments in tech. And we can ask ourselves with the AI, those AI models now trained on NHS pathology data to enhance cancer diagnostics, how do you see AI reshaping the speed of and the speed and accuracy, because they're also very accurate, of early cancer detection? And what are the potential ethical and technical challenges that might rise?
Yeah, I can see both sides of AI. The tremendous ability to diagnose cancer early, and we all know that. What's the best way to fight a disease? Catch it early. Not wait till it develops and things like that. And this would be amazing. My question would be, who gets access to that data? Is big tech know my health issues, and is that being sold to my insurance company to the point where my insurance company is not going to cover me anymore because they know I have cancer or I have diabetes or I have heart disease or whatever that is? I think there needs to be some guardrails on that. But from a cancer perspective, I would love it. I mean, I remember years ago they were talking, colonoscopies are not fun things to have. And they developed a pill that you could swallow that had a camera on it that would go through your intestines and you would excrete it. And then a doctor could look at the camera and say, okay, you've got a polyp here or you've got bleeding here or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah.
So there's some really great technology out there that I think can help people. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'd just be concerned with who has access to that data.
I mean, Myself, I believe that maybe what I'm gonna say it's wrong with my generation, but I don't care about my data. If my data is gonna help other people and is gonna help me to be able to detect, for example, an early cancer, because now we're talking about cancer, I don't care, because thanks to this technology, I know that I can cure something that maybe I wouldn't be able to cure later, and I will cure it earlier than expected. So if a company comes to me and tells me that, okay, now thanks to this device, I will be able to get your data on a daily basis. Your data is safe with us. Okay, my data is not sold everywhere, because I don't want my data obviously to be sold everywhere, but my data can help other people and can help me. I would say yes, give me that. I'll put it, I'll use it for my own benefit. And if it helps someone else, because my data, because the accumulation of different people's data makes a certain diagnosis to be able to help other people, I'll be happy to help. It's kind of contributing to the world, kind of. But there is this data concern that Terry just said. Is like, where is my data going to? All right, it has to go to a safe place. But I'm pretty sure that if it goes to a safe place, it's going to be used for a good cause and not for a bad cause. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. I totally cope with what you say. I think we need compounded data to be able to understand the patterns that are occurring in any sickness, for any sickness, and to try to cure it. We need a lot of data, and all we the only thing is that we can get is data from real people, getting to design whatever has to be designed. I believe, first of all, that tech will be of a tremendous help for medicine in general. And we know it because each year there are new machines, new scanners, new methods that come over. And the age of people come from 40 years old to now nearly 85, 86, 87 years old. And this is because of tech and of probably also medicine. But uh, this data, I mean, when you open an account in any app, for instance, they give you the some juridical papers to sign. I mean, to accept. How many of you refused ever?
You can't
Tell me.
refuse. You can't.
Otherwise, you don't use the app.
Yeah.
So you have the choice to give your data or not give it by accepting or refusing, right? So what they exert is your free will. And when you exert your free will, you are absolutely, you will be astonished. So when you open a new iPhone or Google app or whatever app that you need to use, how much your information does not belong to you. And this is done because those guys, they don't want any um, even any evaluation, because it says data belongs to us and you accept that data belongs to us most of the time. Now less and less, because you have the scrutiny of the governments saying, okay, you have to behave with the data of people, there's their data, there's laws about data, and so on and so forth. The most dangerous one is when they use your data to harm you, or to harm you with blackmailing you. I mean, you were a police officer, Terry, using your data that was sold to them by a third party. This is dangerous,
Yeah.
because imagine Facebook sells your data to someone who sells it back to someone else. You won't know it. And the person who sells it back doesn't know this person is going to do harm. But in fact, you get blackmailed and you get annoyed and you get probably in deep mess for the rest of your life because of that data. So this is why this mitigation between allowing data to be released or not is a serious matter. And you have two schools. You have the open school, like the US are more open, and you have a little bit of closed school in Europe, for instance, where data is very, very, very protected. And I think for the sake of technology, you would always find cures through the data that is shared, but you will also find some smugglers or some bad people wanting to hurt anybody through the use of technology much quicker than you think. Terry.
Yeah, I agree. You're always going to have, unscrupulous people out there that are going to try to manipulate the data and things like that. I agree. I mean, every time I've had, I had my foot amputated, I had my leg amputated, and I always donated my body parts to research because, it's like, hey, can we use this for research as opposed to, incinerating it or something like that? Absolutely. If my something I've got can help another human being, absolutely. I'm all for data sharing and research and things like that. I mean, you guys are you're much more knowledgeable about this than I am. I just, kind of like Yassine was saying, technology says, hey, you know what? You got this particular disease and we caught it early and we can help you. But what if that data company sells your information to your insurance company and your insurance company says, hey, Yassine, yeah, that's going to cost $100,000. We're not going to pay for that. That's on you now. Wait a minute. Now, all of a sudden, I'm kind of being held hostage with my own data because something could cure me, but I can't afford $100,000 for that operation or that procedure.
Yeah,
You mentioned a really good point. Here you mentioned a really good point, but that's why I mean data should be regulated, and companies that use those data should be regulated and carefully. The contracts that we sign should be carefully regulated by the government, and I think we are aware more and more. We're becoming aware of this problem. And for example, now when you open an app on your phone and you sign up, you agree to the terms, but later on, when you start using the app, they ask you again, are you allowing the app to track your usage or something like this? Yes or no. And now you can accept or decline, and by doing that, you still can use the app. I always decline it, for example, doing that, but I can then use the app as well. So there's like we're coming to a certain era where we have several steps to be able to gain back our own data. That's why we need to be careful of what we give. But if it can help, like you said, Terry, if it can help someone else, I would definitely do it. That's why like it should be regulated as well by the governments.
yeah, but let me jump into tech a little bit because it's my field, and I want to share with you this insight. You know that today, in the beginning of the year, there was this forum of Davos. They were going to speak about sustainability. Then they changed the program to put fake news in the top of the program. So fake news became the first topic to be able to handle during the Davos conference, and then sustainability. Imagine. Today, in tech, you can develop what we call stamping. What is stamping? Stamping is that when you emit an information, it is stamped in a way that nobody can erase the stamp, which means that even if you have your data shared, they will know because they will trace it where it goes. That's the stamping to get to know if a news is fake or not. And it was emitted by some fake. In my book Renaissance Now, I advocate for DNA stamping, which means that you have to have your DNA accompanying whatever exchange you have on the web. It is yours. Yeah, there are 8 billion people in the planet, 8 billion DNA, different DNAs. So they will know it's you. So and you say, okay, but it's a way to police me. Yes, it is, but it's also a way to protect other people. And as far as health is concerned, I would go for hackathons to try to find a way to cure cancer more effectively. I will jump into tech like hell. I will provide or invent. That's what we do in part of what we do. The wearables, like future innovation, might lead to affordable wearable cancer detection devices that could continuously monitor biomarkers in real time. And this could be integrated with personal health apps, integrated with personal health, detecting user through safety warning signs and facilitating preventing inventions without requiring massive procedures. And I think this will do more good than harm.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my own daughter. My daughter wears a ring that tells her, hey, how did you sleep last night? Or, you need more exercise, or, your body fat or your body mass index has gone up or whatever it ends up being. And I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I don't know. I'm just old. I don't want people having my stuff. Yeah, I don't want people having my DNA. I don't want people having know where I am or what I'm doing. I want to be autonomous in that way. And I know that's not the way technology is moving. So it's probably good that I'm old and won't be around very much longer. So, it can move forward. I'm just one of those people that I don't want the government in my business. I don't want companies in my business. It's my business.
And it's completely understandable. And we really want to know, again, for the audience, let us know in the comments what you think, because this is a serious topic that touches a lot of us, or everyone is touched by this topic. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about these 3 articles that we just tackled today. Terry, it was a pleasure having you in this podcast. We really want to know where we can find you on social media or anywhere else. The floor is yours.
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is I have a website /blog called Motivational Check. So motivationalcheck.com will get you to me, and I love conversing with people. So please feel free to reach out.
Amazing. We'll put everything in the description of this video, so people can go to your website, to your blog, and get to know you better.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we will converse a lot, Terry, because whenever our tech is ready, we're going to hand it over to you for you to use it, and you're going to love it.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. That's super.
And we'll see you on the next podcast.